right now. Excellent. Let's see who's joining us on the live stream. Oops.
Did you hit the go live button? No.
Thank you.
Now it's in the group live.
Oh, I just got some notifications. Nope, those were not you guys.
I'll send it to you in your messenger right now so you can get it.
And thank you everyone for who's joining us on the live stream.
Oh, you sent me an attachment. There it is. Okay, so what do I do with this attachment, though?
There should be an option to share, like on the bottom left.
All right.
You see share.
I see it. Okay, share to.
Oh, and then share, and then it says write post option.
It says I start. I can start a watch group.
Okay, that'd be perfect.
Okay, and start. Never did this before. Okay.
We're advancing
Oh wait,
together.
is that gonna? And then I'm gonna. The only problem is it's not gonna double it up. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Hang on. That ends the.
What if I?
That causes a double loop in the thing.
Okay. What if I tag?
So I'll share it. I'll share it.
What if I share and tagged you in it? I wonder if that would work.
All right, this is awesome. I'm learning so much.
Let's do it. I'm gonna share on my. I'm gonna share it on my wall, and then I'm gonna tag you in the post.
Okay, good. Then I don't have to do anything. It'll just, I think, show up.
I can't tag.
Sorry, guys. I'm not good at the technical stuff.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Man, it didn't work. Let's see. Oh, always gonna start off with some silence.
Yeah.
Fred.
Okay, tag you. And then I have to accept it. So I'll do that right now, and then we can go. Boom.
Awesome.
All right.
We did it!
Success. I believe I did it. Yeah, just making sure. Awesome. All right.
Perfect. Let's begin by just starting to introduce you, Fred. First of all, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you here. The way that we are really meeting and co-creating so instantaneously feels miraculous already. Would you like to tell everyone about the work that you do?
Sure. I'll try and be brief. You know me. The work I do has been evolving for probably, in some form or another for about 30 years. And the current evolution, which actually feels pretty solid, like this may actually, be where I can stay for a while, is helping people to begin to see the difference, to make the distinction between the ego, which is, you might call it the false self, or the personality or the identity, that which we have been conditioned to believe that's who we are, between that and what I might call true nature or true self, which is who we really are. It is I don't love words like spiritual in this context because they're a little overused, but let's just say this is who we are from a spiritual context or a divine context. Its very nature is peace, happiness, love, clarity, freedom, authenticity. There's nothing to add to it. We don't have to learn how to be those things. We don't have to practice them. It is our very nature. And the only thing to do is to see and to continually see the lie or the illusion that we are somehow this separate self or ego. And in the seeing of it, it begins to fall away all by itself. And then what we're left with, there'll always be some level of ego, which is a good thing because we need some level of ego to function in this world. Just not very much of one, frankly. Way less than most of us have, kind of been conditioned to believe. And so as we continue to see it, our ego has become, I like to think of it as more transparent. It's like a veil, right, that prevents us from really seeing our true nature. And as we see more and more who we are not, who we are begins to shine through. So the love and the clarity and the peace and all those wonderful things just become part of our daily experience of life. There's nothing to do except to allow it to come through. And so I work with mostly people like that. You might call them high performers, executives, business owners. I was up through the end of last year. I was working with an NFL player, actually a very well-known NFL player. We'll probably start that up again in July. So people who have often reached a high level of success in the world, and suddenly at some point they went, I'm confused. I did everything I was supposed to do. I worked my ass off. I got all the money, all of this, all of that. How come I'm not happy? And at a certain point you realize it's not another million or another 10,000 followers or another bigger house or another, you realize that that's not going to do it. And those are the people that are most right for the journey inward, as I'm sharing with you here.
Profound. And always. And wanted to also just share with everyone how grateful I am to come across Fred synchronistically for us being in a coaching group together, in which he did mention how he is working with NFL clients, and that sparked my interest. I didn't know why on a deeper level. I knew why from from an egoic mental standpoint, meaning like, oh, these high performers, these are people that can pay high value for what I bring and all these other things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And from the conversation that we just had by just being present to each other, it was just so much magic that happened through that. And he helped me, and even when he just said right there, it helped myself to realize too in my own journey how I was searching so much externally to get some type of satisfaction internally. Meaning, like, when I get the girl of my dreams who's right here, I will be happy. When I get the job that I want and get paid how I want, I'll be happy. I'll feel successful. I'll feel acknowledged. I'll feel worthy. It's just so profound. And like you mentioned, it's, for me, it's short-lived. You get it. You feel that little thrill of happiness. Like, oh my God, it happened. But then it doesn't last. And then what happens? I got to find more things outside to make me feel happy. I got to find more. And once I started really taking that step within,
it's so obvious and yet so tricky to find it. Can I tell you a quick story?
Oh yeah.
So I have a 16-year-old son, and being 16, he already knows everything. But there was a time, this was a few months ago, where he was going through something emotionally, and he was kind of vulnerable with me, which is not, an everyday occurrence, but he was, and he's great. It's not, I don't want to imply, because we have a great relationship, but this was a moment where I saw a little bit of a possibility, because, it's like the kind of things I'm sharing here. It's like I wish someone had shared with me when I was 16, right? But I don't think I could have heard it, honestly. But you still wish for that for your son. So here he was. I had this little window of opportunity. I said, can I really share what I see? And he said, sure. And for once, he didn't say it sarcastically, like he actually was interested. And what I ended up saying was similar to what you said, Del, that, I said, I spent much of my life, decades of my life searching for what really was happiness. And, along the way, I built successful businesses, and I spent probably $100,000 on seminars and all of that stuff. And I was still not happy. And I said, the funny part was that after all that time and energy and searching, that the most important thing that I learned will fit on a bubblegum comic strip. I asked him, would you like to know what that is? He said, yeah. And I said, the essence of everything that I've seen is that we are already everything that we have been seeking. That's the craziness of it, is that we search for everything outside of ourselves, and we already have it. Because why do we want the dream woman or the amazing job or the money? Is because we think it's going to make us happy. And if we just got that happiness is who we are, that peace, we try to create peace out in the world. People are waving signs and, I'm not saying they're wrong to have a conviction, but how are you going to create peace in the world if you can't find it within yourself? It's not possible. It's not going to happen. Who we are is already everything that we could ever want.
Beautiful. Which leads into the subject, which is the title of your segment, Peace Amidst the Storm.
Perfect segue.
Yeah. Peace amidst the storm. So, look, there's going to be storms in life. This current, coronavirus thing may be a bigger storm, certainly collectively, than we have ever experienced before. In some ways, of course, people can also, and you see all these things about how the earth is healing and the, pollution. So that's all good too. But a lot of people are experiencing some real genuine hardship during this time, whether it's health related, or we're sick, or we're losing family members, or economically we're, so that's a storm for a lot of us. And what I'm saying is, who we are doesn't waver, like the true nature, one of the qualities of our true nature is peace. It's not a conditional peace. See, the ego likes to take all these qualities. It's happy. Yeah, I'm happy when things go my way. I'm peaceful after I meditate for an hour. Whatever. I love someone as long as they fit my criteria. But when I talk about true nature, I'm talking about infinite happiness, infinite peace, infinite love. A peace that is indestructible and not subject to circumstances, whatever they may be. So it's like that old Chinese proverb, like the best time to plant a tree is yesterday, or however that goes, right? The best time to really have, because this is not a mental concept. Maybe I should say that right up front, Like when I talk to clients or when I speak to groups, usually, I invite them to listen to what I'm about to share, not as information, like an intellectual concept that you can put on top of the other pile of concepts in your head, but rather listen to this as though you were listening to like a 3-year-old telling them about their day, like with that open heart and no need to understand or figure it out or agree, just to be present with it, so that your ego can maybe get out of the way a little bit. Because what I'm saying is that the possibility of living from this place of true nature is present and available for us in every moment. You know? And one of the things I love about conversations like this, you know, Jesus said, when two or more gather in my name, remember, you know, the rest of that line?
Oh.
When two or more gather in my name, there shall I be in their midst. And to me, you know, being a Jewish kid from Long Island, I interpret that a little differently. I interpret that as when we gather in this way, and it doesn't matter that we're, you know, 1,800 miles apart. And in my name, gathering in my name doesn't mean to me in Jesus' name. It means in the service for the spirit of truth, in the service of love. There shall I be in their midst doesn't mean that Jesus shows up, you know, like, hello, everybody, but rather that spirit, that energy, that frequency of love is amplified. And why I point this out is because even now, in, you know, 10 minutes into this conversation or whatever it's been, I'm already feeling that energy begin to emerge, you know, that stillness. And that's a beautiful thing. You know, it doesn't even matter, you know, what we talk about. If we do it in the spirit of love, this is what happens. And this is what changes the world. Not another concept, not another belief. This spirituality to me should be imminently logical or practical. You should be able to experience it for yourself. You shouldn't have to rely on belief or faith that something happened, because that's all intellectual. It's all in your head. If you can feel it right now, the stillness that's in the space, that's ego receding. This is who we are, right? Why talk about it when you can have it? And well, you can talk about it too, but not as opposed, right? Not either or. And that's usually how it is, you know?
Oh, yeah. Usually the biggest talkers are the ones who's not really experiencing it.
Oh, yeah. And even like people are going to listen to this recording at some other date. And I invite those of you who are listening later to still tune into this frequency that's becoming, that's emerging as we speak. Because time and space don't matter here, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sometimes makes words hard, doesn't it?
That's a beautiful challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how interesting it would be for viewers if we sat here in silence for the next 45 minutes. But,
depending on who's watching, it could get very interesting.
Yeah,
it
right.
could. It could. You know, I was working with a brand new client the other day, and it's just fascinating because in the beginning, I noticed how she would fill all the spaces. You know, if something would happen, we'd say something, and she'd be like, yeah, and she'd like right away, she couldn't be in that silence. And then quite spontaneously, you know, 30 or 40 minutes into the conversation, and we're on a video like this, I just noticed these long spaces, longer and longer, you know, a minute, 2 minutes where nobody would speak. And it's just so beautiful to just be able to be present as who you are without needing, you know, the ego is what wants to fill the space. The ego gets very uncomfortable in those silences. And I get that. And the beautiful thing about that is the feeling, that anxiety that makes us want to speak. That's the gift in that moment. Sit with that anxiety. That is the, you know, it's like life. I said this when we were doing the panel yesterday. Life is always, to my way of looking at life, it's always happening for us, right? The choice is life is either happening to us or for us. And so if we see life as happening for us and that anxiety comes up, that's the doorway in that moment to see through that illusion, to see that you are not that anxiety. Right? Otherwise, we might identify with it. Oh my God, I am anxious. And then we become that anxiety.
Are you back?
Uh-oh.
Speak about silence.
I know, and anxiety.
Oh.
It's okay. You want to leave the meeting and come right back?
Yeah.
Turn it off, turn it on method. It's my favorite.
Yep. Probably got restarted. Oh, there you go. You're back.
You're back.
Oh, you're not. I love it.
I can't hear you. Are we good still?
Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me?
I'm good. Sorry, I don't know how to fix that. When somebody calls me on my phone, which is what it mutes it for a second. Anyway, sorry about that, everybody.
No problem.
So perfect example, though, right? Exactly.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So what happens in that moment? If like I feel that tension, you know, oh my God, what do we do? And we can take a breath and allow that tension to be present in that space of stillness. And we see that it's not who we are. And we begin to allow that tension to dissolve. And something that I've only seen recently is that tension literally binds, holds energy in place. And by allowing that tension to dissolve, this energy becomes available to us. That actually energizes the aliveness, the peace, even to a greater degree. So what else should we talk about today? Is that it? Right. What else is there to say?
Wow.
There's a lot more to say. There's plenty more to say. You know?
Yeah. I was about to say continue. That's profound. Like, yeah. Energy dissolving.
Yeah.
Us being able to sit with that, and especially right now, the midst of what's happening externally,
Exactly.
and us being forced to sit. We have to sit, and a lot of people, they can't sit.
Literally, right?
Because the silence, like you mentioned with your client, and this is what is universally, synchronicity happening for all of us. We're forced to sit, and people are like, oh my God, I gotta stay busy, because in that silence, there's me.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? And you know, you see a lot of these people like posting on Facebook, and this is not wrong, but it's just an interesting contrast to what you're saying. The ones that are saying, I'm going to use this time, you know, at home to write a novel or whatever. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. And I love what you're saying, because what if we didn't rush to fill that space?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why is that less important than, you know, getting more shit done? Which, that's the endless to-do list that we all have. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So it's a balance, right? It's not, oh, well, now you shouldn't write the novel or you shouldn't do whatever. But can you take some of this time for stillness? You know, because as my coach and teacher, Garrett, likes to share, you know, there is nothing more practical than the knowing of your own being. Because it is from that stillness and peace and clarity that your whole life begins to change. And you become different, you know, in your business professionally. You become different in your relationships. You become different in the way you see yourself. And it's effortless. That's the part that really kind of freaks the ego out, that it's not, there's nowhere to get to. There's no achievement associated with this. It's not like a notch, okay? You know, checked off self-realization, now what?
Yeah, that ego.
There you go.
Fun little guy.
Yeah. And maybe it's important to point out too that the ego is not separate
Mm-hmm.
from who we are, because that would imply duality,
Mm-hmm.
that there's a true self and an ego.
Yeah.
But that's not actually the way it works. The ego is simply a misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it doesn't actually exist at all like a thing, which is why I think it's kind of funny, you know, so much of, you know, what people call personal development or self-help, self-confidence, self-esteem, seen from this perspective, and I'm not trying to make fun of them, well, maybe a little bit, but that all of that stuff, for the most part, there are exceptions, but for the most part, to my way of thinking, they're trying to polish up an ego, a self that doesn't actually exist.
Mm-hmm.
And there's even you know, I mean, if I'm going to be very blunt about it,
Do it.
where that can be harmful, right? Where it could be harmful because you're reinforcing the idea that I am powerful, I am special, I. There is no I, except the illusory I that we use to get around on this in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But that I should always be in service to the greater, you know, truth of who we are. And from that perspective, I mean, that is peace on earth. That is the, you know, everything that we could want for ourselves, for the planet, for our children. There's nothing more I could see that we could want.
Absolutely.
It's like, why want when you're everything?
Why what?
I said it's like, why want in that space? Or why
Mm-hmm.
want because you're everything. That type
Yeah.
of, and everything's taken care of.
Yeah, and here's how I kind of like this plays out in my work. So, you know, I'm a coach, right? I mean, this is what I do. I work with people that want more, they want to wake up, right? But not like on a mountaintop or in a cave, but in life. And so I see it like, they're not exactly sequential, but I see two phases in my work. And the first phase is what we've been talking about. It's about true nature. It's about getting a deep enough understanding, and again, not intellectual, but experiential understanding of who you are, that becomes more and more the dominant force in your life. I don't think it's actually linear like this, but I imagine it like at the 51% mark, like at 0%, if my arm could go all the way there, would be completely unconscious, completely in the ego, completely identified as the ego. And 100% was completely living as being or love. 51% is where I see people are really ready to create life, phase 2 in my work, life as a game. Where you begin to see that happiness, your happiness, is no longer dependent on the outcomes that you produce. Because what is the nature, the true, actual nature of a game is that we made it up, right? So, I mean, I use this example a lot, you know, somewhere along the line, someone made up that it is better to hit the ball with the stick than to miss the ball with the stick. Follow what I'm saying? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone made that up, and then if we want to play the game, we get to make it up along with them. Okay? Now, if we know that it's a game, then there's zero pressure, you know? So you hit the ball with the stick and you go, woohoo, right? You miss the ball with the stick and you go, I'll try again. Because it's just a ball and a stick. What could be less consequential, right? But because it's a game, you remember that you made it up. You can then give it everything you got. There's nothing holding you back from trying as hard and learning and giving everything you have to that game. With the full, imagine this now, the full joy and power of your true nature behind it. knowing the whole time that it's just a game that you chose to play. And then I teach, we get into this more when I work with clients, but there are basically two ways that we can create a game. One is through the head and the other is through the heart. Now, to my mind, both are fine. Some people might say, oh, only the heart. No, I don't think so. Because if you're already operating from true nature, that's the key. And you create a game from the head, the criteria for a game from the head is it looks like fun. It just looks like it would be really fun to create $1 million. Why? I don't know. I just think it would be fun. Not to gratify your ego, not to suddenly prove to your dad that you are something, you know what I mean? But just because genuinely, because you already know that who you are, you already have happiness intrinsic to your being. And now you say, yeah, what the heck? Let's go create some money. That seems like fun. So that's the head. The heart is a little different. You don't, if the heart chooses the game, and at some point along this journey, it will, you best get out of the way. Because the heart is not a choice. When the heart says, here's the game, it's not a want or a wish, it's a must. Okay, somehow, when the heart says, let's play this game, whatever it is, we align with that game. And we find, and typically, at least to my mind, that would be a game that would be somehow of service to humanity in some way. And I don't have a rule about what that should look like. But the heart's game is no longer about you. It's about, that's like at the point when another huge chunk of your ego, because you remember, even at 51%, there's still 49% ego that can pull us down into the swamp again. So at the point when the heart says, okay, I've got a game for us to play, there's going to be another big chunk of ego that probably needs to dissolve in order to fully surrender to that game. But in that surrendering, there is, again, because you're revealing more of who you really are, you're revealing greater joy, greater peace, probably greater prosperity, can't promise that, but certainly possible, than you ever could have imagined prior to that. So that's the idea, is that we get to first wake up to who we are, then we play. For the rest of our life, it becomes a game.
Fred, once again, you've blown my mind.
Well, maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people who listen to this as well, minds got blown. Because integrating both parts, like you mentioned, like from the mind and from the heart, but who is going from there, and that true nature, like you mentioned, it's allows you to really allow yourself. It's okay to have desires. It's okay to get those things you want, but make sure that when your heart is telling you to do something, you listen and you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I call that aligned action. It's not action that comes from a should. It's action that just arises naturally, because again, as we begin to see that we as an ego don't really exist except as a belief, we see that there really is no doer. There's no me taking action. This may be a little abstract, and I apologize for that.
Go abstract, baby.
Go for it. That we begin to see that action arises naturally from just like that space, that openness that we are. Because after the ego disappears, I talk about true nature, but what is true nature? True nature, another word for it that I really like, is awareness. Awareness is the space in which all of our experience occurs. The loving, infinite space that includes everything. So all of our thoughts, all of our actions, and our body, our mind, our emotions, all of that occurs within the space of awareness. So none of those can be who we are, because they're all, if you can be aware of your body, then you can't be your body. It occurs within that space. It's what we call an object within awareness. And so even action, even doing, arises from that space of awareness. You see? So the more aligned we as an ego is what the ego has, what's called attention. That's the mind. And the more that our attention as an ego can align with awareness itself, that's the space from which all of this other stuff can happen effortlessly.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
And then there's a model I have, there's a model I teach for effortless action or effortlessness in general. There's all these, we can get into all that, but, I don't want to overload people with data, but it's because it's just the being that matters.
Yeah.
When I say I'm trying to like you say, blow my mind so that something else allows to open up. Not so you have to understand any of it. It doesn't matter what you understand. Werner Erhard, some of you guys know who Werner Erhard was, right? The guy that created the S training that later became landmark education, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. When people would get out of the S training, that was back in like the 70s, and he would ask them, did you get it? That was his term, did you get it? And they go, yeah, I think I really understood what you were talking about. And Werner would say, understanding is the booby prize. Right? Like if you leave this conversation here or the S training or anything with some intellectual concept of what it means, that's the booby prize. And that's not what I'm interested in at all, frankly.
True. When I was in Landmark, the advanced program, they were saying that where we can let go of understanding is where we can let the magic in.
Yeah, exactly. Because this magic is available to us every moment. And it's tricky because the ego, until we can really begin to get a sense of who we are, it's the ego is going to constantly say, oh, good, magic. I can use that to get what I want. And it's a tricky balance there, to keep seeing through the lie, to keep seeing who we are behind all of this stuff that goes on all the time. I could share a metaphor. This might be useful. We all like to go to the movies, and so we have a movie screen, and we can show movies on that screen. On that screen, we might show a comedy or a love story or a horror movie or a war movie. So here's the first question. Is the screen affected in any way by the type of movie that we show on it? It's not, right?
No.
So wait, let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So you're saying if there's like a huge explosion on the screen isn't affected, it doesn't like burn up or anything? Right, okay. So like if it's a happy movie, like a comedy, the screen's not happy, and if it's a sad movie, the screen's not sad? Okay. Does the screen, when there's no movie playing, does the screen get lonely and wish for a movie to be playing?
No.
Okay, awesome. So now, here's the shift. We have been trained, conditioned. This is all about conditioning. Since, pre-language, before we're even old enough to speak it, we've been conditioned that we are the movie. And what I'm offering here is the possibility that we are, in fact, the screen. That we are, and not just one screen, right? But an infinite screen that we all share, one being. And we look through one little part of that screen and we shine our movie onto one little part of it. And then we lose. It's a case of mistaken identity. We think we're the movie. So when the movie is happy, we're happy. When the movie is sad, we're sad. But as awareness, we are the space in which the movie occurs. And again, we're not affected by anything that happens on the screen. None of it. Now, that doesn't mean that we won't have feelings, right? Like, some people are going to lose a loved one, or already have in, the past weeks or the weeks to come. Right? This is not an escape from that. This is not, so my son, my daughter, my grandmother died, but I'm the screen, so I can sit here and not feel any of it, It's an opportunity to engage with life fully from that place of love, but not to be identified. So you can feel all the pain and grief in the world and still know that it's not who you are, and allow it to pass through you without having it be stuck. I know, we all probably know people. I worked with a woman years back who lost her husband. At that time, it had been like 12 years. And she still referenced herself, as someone who lost my husband. I'm not making fun of her, but she became identified as a widow. That became her identity. And she was, and believe me, you wouldn't want to try and take it away from her. Very attached to it, But how is that freedom? How does that allow her to experience all of life if everything she sees is through the lens of a widow, right? Or the lens of a survivor of some past childhood trauma, or the lens of, this is going to push some people's buttons, of an alcoholic. If that is if that becomes my identity, then I've taken infinite love and I've squeezed it into a particular box, which is what the ego does. It's not wrong. It's just a huge limiting of possibility.
Brings me to a quote from Wayne Dyer when he said, "You can either be a host to God or a hostage to your ego."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't it funny? Byron Katie, who I just dearly love. You guys know Byron Katie? Her first book, written probably 30 years ago, was called Loving What Is. And just an extraordinary human being, but someone who I believe is one of the clearest human beings on the planet, truly. And she says, when you argue with reality, which is her name for God, by the way, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only 100% of the time.
Wow. Wow. That's funny.
And that's like very, very powerful to see that. Something else she says that I just absolutely love is she'll get in front of an audience of like 300 or 400 people, and she'll say, and she's very provocative. She's funny because she had no spiritual path, and she had this spontaneous, profound awakening, and suddenly she saw all of what we're talking about, like from the deepest experiential place. So she had no dogma that she had to, refer to. So she refers, everything she says arises from that space. It's not like something she read in a book. So she'll get in front of an audience of 100 or 500 people, and she'll say, I know all of you love me, but some of you may not have caught on to that yet. Now, here's how I interpret that, because you might hear that as arrogant, but I hear her as playing a little bit of a game with the audience. She's saying, I know all of you love me, not because of how wonderful I am. Rather, I know that you love me because of how wonderful you are. In other words, you are love. And if you knew that, what does love do? It loves. It loves me because that's just who you are. But some of you may not have realized, you may not have caught on to that yet. So it's just such a beautiful way of pointing people to who they are. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who the person in front of you is. From a perspective of true nature, love is what is present. that doesn't mean you agree with their actions. It doesn't give them a pass to do bad things in the world, but it doesn't change the fact that love is love. Or I like to say it's all love in disguise.
That's a perfect way for closing. Because my next question is going to be, what's the message that you have for everyone? And that one was perfect. So,
yeah.
We definitely have to wrap this up a little bit, but I definitely want to offer the opportunity for you to let people know exactly where they can find you at.
Yeah, that's awesome. They find me right here. I'm available. I think we said, can I share an offer? Is that okay?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let me do that. This comes from an opportunity or a hope of being of service to someone who may resonate with what we've shared here today and may be really curious about how can I begin to apply some of these principles to my own life, to my own situation. And what I'm going to offer is that anyone who would like to have a conversation like this with me for probably about 90 minutes, I am happy to do that. I'm not asking, there's no charge for it. It's not a sales pitch. It's really just my way of being of service to love, really, and to be able to give other people an opportunity to wake up to who they are, and to then maybe spread that in their own worlds. So you could put it in the comments or whatever, but I'll give you my phone number right now, because really the easiest way is to just call. Operators are standing by. No, I'm just kidding. That's just me. But my phone number is 512-584-9075. You can call or you can text me at that number. If you want to look at my website, it probably needs a lot of updating, but you can look at it. It'll give you some idea. My web address is energyrichliving.net. Feel free to check me out there, or Dr. Fred, DRFRED at energyrichliving.net. Or get me an email. If you have questions, feel free to reach out. If you feel a desire or an impulse to have a conversation, please do reach out. I'm more than happy to set that time up with you. And I think I even sent you a scheduler link, didn't I, at some point? If you have that, yeah, feel free to put that out too, and they could just schedule directly. Anyway, yeah, that's all the logistical stuff. But if people want to continue this conversation, I'm happy to do that.
Awesome.
And thank you guys.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, for making this available, and the whole summit that you guys are doing, and and for Del, reaching out, like that whole synchronicity that happened with you and I, and then the three of us, and what we're going to create going forward in the future, because I know we have other cool stuff we want to do.
Oh yeah.
I'm excited. It's really such a gift, a blessing to have met you guys and to be able to be inside your orbit for a little while.
Likewise.
Thank you, Fred.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone who's tuning in. We appreciate you, and we will see you soon.
Okay. Bye, everyone.